So, you just got your first box of minis. You opened it up to find a big gray square of plastic filled with tiny bits cut out of it that don't look anything like elves or monsters and certainly not spacemen. Oh, the horror. What are you gonna do? With any luck, the nice people who made the box that you're looking at included a very nice booklet of easy to follow step-by-step instructions with pictures and numbers of pieces and everything you need to get you started with putting these pieces together. If not, I really hope you like jigsaw puzzles, because that's what you've got on your hands. Go ahead, dig through the box, find that book of instructions, then we're going to need to collect our weapons. Tool number 1 is a sharp pair of diagonal clippers. I don't care if you get them from the hardware store. They're probably a little bit cheaper there, but maybe a little bit larger, may not fit into some of the tighter areas as well. I'm sure you can find one at your friendly local game store. Might be a little bit more expensive, a little bit smaller, fit into the tight spaces a little bit better. But hey, friendly local game stores need your support too. Otherwise, next time you go there looking for your next box of minis, they might not be there. The important part of this is they need to be sharp. If you see the ones I've got in front of me, I've been using them to clip steel wires and all sorts of things. These are not the best ones to be using. They need to be very, very sharp. What you need is a razor blade, X-Acto knife. Doesn't have to be brand name or anything. And honestly, we want this not to be as sharp as possible. I like a used blade that's a little bit dull. We'll get into the details of that, why exactly later, but a sharper knife will tend to slice and gouge the model a little bit. Do not use the razor blade to cut the pieces off the sprue. We need some fine sandpaper. Once again, you can find this in your local hardware store, or you can go online, find sanding twigs, sanding sticks of, really fine grade. Any old sandpaper will work. The finer, the better. Next, we need something to hold all the pieces together. So we need glue. Super glue will work. It does a fine job. It's a little bit messy and can tend to get all over things. I personally like a super thin plastic cement. It's usually got a brush-on applicator, tends to keep it right where it wants to be. Does not work for 3D printed resin, but for most of the plastics that you're going to get in these boxes, the Warhammer boxes and things like that, the plastic cement will actually chemically bond the two pieces of plastic together, making a much firmer, much stronger connection than just the regular super glue. So the instructions that we found earlier should have piece numbers listed for each step. And if you look at the sprue in front of you, that's that big plastic frame that holds all the pieces. Each piece should have a number next to it. So here's where we come to some options. I personally like cutting out each piece one by one as I need them and assembling them. Your other option is you can cut everything loose, but then it's much harder, at least to me, to remember what pieces what. Very frequently they're very tiny and easy to lose, when following the instructions. So you've got your pieces cut loose from the sprue using the clippers. Like I said, do not use the razor blade. It will have a tendency to slip, end up embedded in your hand. Then you've got to run to the emergency room, and then you're not watching my videos. And well, I'd rather have you watching my videos than being in the emergency room. And I think you would too. But once you've got it clipped loose of the sprue, you'll want to run your finger along the edge of the piece and you'll feel the jagged spot where you cut it loose of the sprue. Now I want you to take that sharp razor blade and hold the edge perpendicular to the rough edge where you cut loose from the sprue, and just gently scrape over that jagged spot and scrape those jagged bits off, leaving it mostly smooth behind it. Be really careful not to gouge into the plastic or slice overhanging strange shapes off. That'll mean you're left with a gap that needs to be filling or a seam that's very obvious. Next, we're going to examine the piece for mold lines or any flash. These can be either scraped off again with the razor blade, or this is where the sandpaper comes in. You want to gently sand it with some really fine sandpaper. I like 200 grit, and just gently sand off that flash or mold line so that you've got a nice smooth piece. You don't want to be looking at mold lines later on when you're painting, because they will come through and they look awful. Now that we've got nice smooth pieces, we're going to start by dry fitting them together, making sure that we understand what they're supposed to look like and where they go together, where they connect. Then we're going to put a thin bead of glue along those edges that connect, or just kind of brush on the plastic cement on both sides. Hold them together until they're firmly assembled. And voila, you've taken two pieces and made them into one. And now it's just repeating the process. We're gonna cut out our next piece, grab the razor blade, trim off the jagged edges, break out the sanding paper, sand off the mold lines, find any flash. By the time you're done with all that, the glue should be dry and it should be relatively solid on the first piece. And then you can just dry fit the two new pieces together, make sure that you've got a good fit and everything is smooth. Glue those together and rinse and repeat until you're done with all the instructions. As you work on larger models though, you'll want to start thinking ahead to painting. In this case, the Biovore has this big turret on his back, and if I wasn't doing an assembly video on this, I probably would have left it off and left it separate to make it easier to paint underneath the turret and in between some of those little spaces. And then once you're done painting, you can glue them together. But that's really all it takes. It's just that simple. You've gone from one sheet of plastic to a fantastic mini ready for paint. I want to thank you all for watching me put this together today. I hope it was helpful to you. If it was, please feel free to like and subscribe. We've got a Patreon page that you can help support the channel. We've got some social media pages that you can follow and keep up with what we're doing. I want to give a personal thanks to all our patrons. I really appreciate your support all the time, and I want you all to go out and have fun and keep creating.